Let me just say this out loud. Americans use the British Isles as a reference point for what it means to be of European descent. Specifically, we're really talking about England when you really get down to it. That's the way it is here in America. When a person wants to describe another person as basically being white, they generically say that person is of European descent. But in their mind, what they're really thinking is England. They're not thinking Spain. They're not even thinking about Greece. They're not thinking about Germany or France. Not really. They're thinking about pretty much British Isles. They're thinking specifically about England. So that's where it gets confusing, especially when we're talking about Spain. Yes, everyone knows that Italy is Europe. But when we say Spain, boy, that's a trigger for us Americans because we think Mexicans, Mexico, because we only have two neighbors, Canada, and they're largely of European descent. And then we've got our Mexican neighbors, and we automatically get scrambled because so many of us Americans, like this guy right here, has never met a person from Spain, ever. And I've traveled the world, but I've never traveled to Europe. I've never met a Spanish person. So therefore, things get confusing, and that is the shorthand to say you're of European descent. If you say that, you basically mean that that person has roots going back to England specifically. That's how we are. And maybe it's because of our history, because we had to fight from our independence from England. There's so many reasons why, even ultimately, from let's say maybe a political, military perspective, even now in 2019, there's still a Venn diagram in which the United States and England still share a lot of things in common. So ultimately, when we think of Europe, yes, of course, we think of stereotypical things like the Eiffel Tower, and there's that, and there's Big Ben, there's England, and what else is in Europe? We tend not to think about Spain because of that whole confusion thing that so many Americans have. And for people in Spain, that's troubling to hear. But here in America, it's the norm. So I'm not excusing this. I'm just saying this exists. I think if we talk about it, it will help us all learn more about each other's perspectives. This channel is about exploring the difference between truth and fact. Because, and if you can grasp this, this is what I believe. Fact often is irrelevant. Truth is what people adhere to. But yet we've all got our different versions of truth. So imagine the American perspective of truth that of European descent basically means we're pointing back to England. In reality, that can mean all kinds of things. Specifically, we could be talking about Spain. Though when we think of Spanish people, we still tend to have to shake off the thought, but they're Native American. No, they're not. If they look that way, if they have traits like this at all, then it's because of probably Arab or Jewish, Mediterranean. It's not anything to do with Native American. But that's how Americans think. Can we be reprogrammed? Maybe with enough conversations here on YouTube about it. If we can do that without being seen as these very confused people who just need to be taught right, without me being perceived as this YouTuber who is so ignorant, why doesn't he do his research? Believe it or not, this is part of my research. Through the comments, I learned so much. But I think it's important that we don't get caught up on the truth, but instead we respect that people have their own wrong versions of truth. And it's a slow and gentle process in helping people to get there. I've learned a lot in the last year that I've been making videos about this. So that is the perception. We are battling the truth when really we need to be looking and recognize that people have different perspectives. And only with emotional intelligence can we help them get to a higher place. Your comments belong right here.